Good morning. What a great audience. Right to attention. Welcome to the 51st Annual Chicago Leadership Prayer Breakfast. I'm Andy McKenna. I'll be serving as your Master of Ceremonies this morning. We've got a great program planned, as you always will expect from this great organization. So it's a real honor to be your host. We're also fortunate to be joined by our good friend, Cook County Board President Toni Preckwinkle. Our keynote speaker, Dr. Sid Moan. And our musical guests, the Wicker Park Choral Singers. I see their seats are nearby, so hello to them. And of course, several of our local business leaders who will share prayers throughout the morning. So thank you all for being part of this event. You know, this is an opportunity to offer gratitude for the communities that we serve and shape us. We honor our diverse and distinct spiritual histories, and from those diverse histories, we gather together around a table for conversation, fellowship, and offering thanks. And in many names from our many traditions, we welcome the presence of the divine in our midst. We are here today as leaders in our community, and we're gathering across lines of differences in religious practices and belief. We gather to affirm that we are a community enriched by this diversity, that we as a community can sit together in hospitality and friendship, not leaving our traditions and beliefs behind, but carrying the very heart of these traditions and beliefs to the table. So this morning we join as a community of citizens, lifting our voices, our thoughts, and our hearts in prayer. This breakfast began in 1964, and for over 50 years, civic and business leaders have come together to continue this yearly gathering. Since 1998, the principal responsibility for organizing the breakfast has belonged to the Chicago Sunday Evening Club. And I want to say thank you to the staff of the Sunday Evening Club for putting together the breakfast again this year. I'm old enough to have memories of the Sunday Evening Club and remembering it on the radio every Sunday and, of course, subsequently on television. But in 1908, when a group of business leaders, not unlike the group gathered here today, put in motion the vision for a ministry in the loop, it was not about denominations or creeds, but about hospitality and uplifting conversation. Long before there was TV and even before radio, the Sunday Evening Club was a part of the civic fabric of the Windy City. For over 100 years, in fact, the Chicago Sunday Evening Club has been working to create strong relationships of faith and goodwill in our community. We'll hear a little more about the work of the Sunday Evening Club a little later in the program. I also want to acknowledge the support of our major donors this morning, particularly our underwriters, Northern Trust, Henry Crown & Company, and ComEd. We also appreciate our benefactors, PNC Bank, Northwestern Medicine, and Edgar DiGiannata. As you might imagine, it takes a great deal of support to make an event like this possible, and you also will find the names of our contributors in your program. So please join me in showing our appreciation for those who have made this morning possible with their financial report. So it's long been a tradition at this breakfast for civic leaders of Chicago to take part in this event. And aren't we all delighted that we're honored to have today Cook County President Toni Preckwinkle. Toni Preckwinkle has been a devoted and dedicated community leader for over 2 decades. And prior to being elected board president in 2010, she served as an alderman for 19 years and has reached the IVI IPO Best Alderman Award 6 times. I suspect no one else has achieved that, Toni. And as a high school teacher in Chicago, Toni ran a nonprofit organization aimed at neighborhood improvement. I also know that Toni, if we if the Olympics had come here, what an important role you would have played in that endeavor. So as Toni makes her way to the podium, please join me in welcoming her. Toni?
Good morning. I'm very grateful to be here this morning. It's been an interesting week. I was sworn in on Monday to my second term, having been elected in November in the general election. The first time in my public life that I was uncontested, going back to elections in 1983. And yet it's been one of the most difficult and challenging weeks, I think, of my public life. A reminder that the road in front of us is rarely smooth and straight. We're lucky if the incline isn't straight up and there are only rocks and not boulders along the way. So I think it's particularly appropriate that I be here today for this prayer breakfast, and I want to thank the Sunday Evening Club for its good work in making this possible. And ask you this morning and going forward that you keep public servants in your prayers. The teachers who invest the time and love in your children and your grandchildren and your friends and neighbors. The police and firefighters who try to keep our streets and communities safe. The people who deliver our mail, who collect our garbage, who sweep our streets, and in a myriad of ways make our lives easier and more comfortable, and who often are maligned and vilified. So I hope, as I said, in your prayers this morning and in the future, that you will remember those who have chosen to be public servants and whose lives are often interesting like mine. Yes, and who desperately need your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Toni. We're really, all of us benefit from important people, but people in public service of Toni's integrity and leadership. So Toni, thank you so much. So we're going to begin our program this morning with a prayer of thanksgiving for the food and the company gathered here today, and then give you a bit of time for conversation over breakfast. So I'd like to welcome to the stage Payal Shah, who will be offering our first prayer. She's a former assistant counsel at the Illinois office of Senate President John J. Koshin, and Ms. Shah is now a healthcare attorney with Blue Cross Blue Shield. So please join me in welcoming Payal Shah.
I'm a little short, so I hope you can see me. Good morning. Thank you. Jai Somnarayan Namaste, which means I bow to the divine in you. I was inspired to join today's prayer breakfast after watching the Chicago Sunday Evening Club's film Divided Families and the dialogues that film sparked. South Asians are one of the fastest growing immigrant communities in the Chicago metro area, and we're diverse in terms of our ethnicity, our language, and of course religion. And we care deeply about civil rights issues and immigration reform, police accountability. And I'm a member and volunteer at the Chicago Hindu Temple, BAPS Swaminarayan Hindu Temple in Bartlett in the northwest suburbs. And in Hinduism, we believe that there are many paths to the same goal, and that goal being moksha, meaning liberation. And so we embrace a diversity of beliefs when it comes to God and the universe, and of course, reaching moksha. In a similar manner, I think, through interfaith collaborations like the gathering here today, and also one-to-one conversations, we too can learn more about each other and form these collaborations and reach our common goals. And I think now is the time, through our collaborations, to come together across political affiliations and religious backgrounds to support our immigrant and minority communities and be a part of this change that can benefit us all. So on that note, let us say a prayer. Dear God, you are the divine wisdom, the essence of everything I know, everything I am learning, and everything I seek to understand and realize. You are the source of everything good and the giver of all resources we require for our physical sustenance and spiritual enlightenment. Please continue to protect us and nourish us, and we thank you for the food before us today and the opportunity to share it with everyone gathered here today. Thank you. Jai Swaminarayan.
Well, thank you, Payal. So now let's enjoy breakfast, and we'll be back with you in a few minutes.